Welcome to Wild Bill's Media and the Arts podcast. Today, before I get into what the episode is about, I just want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine and fellow podcaster, Ice Pets Queen. She has, I think, like 9 different podcasts out, and she has a new one called No Time for Your Shit podcast, and you can check those out on Spotify, I think Apple Music or Apple Play or Apple something other. I know it's on Amazon, like music and podcasts and stuff, and Red Circle. I'm not sure how many other places her podcast is on, but it's just about everywhere you can go listen to podcasts. So I'd go check those out. She, like I said, she has about 9 different ones, and so yeah, she has a little bit of everything, so go check that out, and I know she'd appreciate it and everything. Okay, today I want to talk about 2 movies. Movies that I have enjoyed since my childhood and later on in life, and still to this day are probably 2 of my favorite movies out there. And I'm talking about Eddie and the Cruisers, and Eddie and the Cruisers 2, Eddie Lives. Both movies were done in the 80s. And basically what the gist of the movies is, Eddie and the Cruisers, the first movie, is almost kind of like a mystery, but it's also like, it kind of feels like a documentary almost. It's about this news reporter who's watching the performance of Eddie and the Cruisers. And she talks about how the author Rimbaud had, he was a famous author, and one day he just quit writing altogether and wound up in his deathbed in Marseille, or whatever. And anyway, so Eddie was in this band called Eddie and the Cruisers, and they had put out an album called Tender Years. And, they had, minimal, I guess I'd say minimal success, I guess, or whatever you want to say, or they were still playing like small venues and stuff. But what do you expect for like the 60s, right? Late 50s, early 60s. So, anyway, the gist of the story is supposedly Eddie Wilson died. And like 18 years later, this reporter is trying to do a story on trying to figure out whether he died and what happened to the lost tapes that they had. He was recording it the night that he died. He had just come back from the recording studio where he was recording an album called Season in Hell. And there's also a poem out there by author Rimbaud called A Season in Hell. And she wanted to know if that poem had influenced Eddie in any way. So she was going around interviewing all like former band members and everything. And the thing about the movie is like the first movie stars Tom Berenger and Michael Paré, or Paré, or however you say it, pronounce his name. And he's in like all the flashback dream sequences, kind of like they would think about, she would ask him a question, or they'd get to talking, and they would remember back, when they were in the band and when they were with Eddie and everything. And so it was almost kind of like he was in the remembrance part of the movie and not the actual modern day part of it. And so anyway, so the woman winds up going and making a documentary about the life of Eddie and Cruisers, which it talks about at the very end of the movie. Well, no one ever really finds out whether Eddie is dead or alive. You don't find that. And in the movie, the end of the movie, they kind of conclude that Eddie is dead. But then there's a final scene at the very end of the movie, because I don't want to give this away. Well, I guess you can give it away because part 2 says Eddie lives. So I guess what happens is outside the ending of the movie, you'll see a guy standing in front of it like a TV store, and he'll see the woman talking about like her documentary and talking about a season in hell. And all of a sudden he's got a beard now and everything, and you see him, the little documentary thing goes off, and you see him walking away. And that had supposedly been about 18 years later or something. Well, basically, Eddie and the Cruisers 2 picks up, I guess it's supposed to be like 20 years later or a little more than 20 years later. And Eddie is still trying to wrap his head around him faking his death, and him living in, they were from Jersey. They were Jersey. Well, now he's living in Montreal, Canada, and under another name called Joe West. And, he's just like writing music stuff, playing music in like his house and stuff like that. He's working as a construction worker and all this stuff. Well, he goes out one night and sees this guy playing in a bar, or this band playing in a bar, and he confronts the guy and says, "Look here, because the guy asked him, said something about, I heard you looking for, he says, I heard you play guitar." He said, I'm looking for another guitar player. And the guy's like, Eddie's like, instead of adding a new guitar player, why don't you learn to play yourself? And the guy gets mad at him and says, "Okay, Segovius, you're such a hot shot. Show me what happens." Well, he gets up on stage and starts playing. And then he has a memory of something, a tragic event that happened in the first movie or whatever. And he walks off stage, and they're kind of like dumbfounded. So the movie goes on and everything. And, he meets this woman, she's a painter and everything. And then he runs into this guy again or whatever. And the guy wants him to jam with him and everything and start a band. And he's against that. He doesn't want to and everything. So finally, after, hounding him and everything, he decides to start a band with this guy. And basically, he finally tells that girl that he's with the truth, that he's really Eddie Wilson. But she's the only one that knows, except for the sax player in the band. He knows. But he doesn't say anything. So basically, the movie goes on, and they become a band, and they go out on kind of a tour to practice and everything and all that. And, they have the growing pains of like most normal bands do and everything. And finally, they get approached to play this music festival in Montreal. And Eddie doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want that exposure, because he was famous once, and it all fell apart for him. And underneath all this, they found the lost tapes of Eddie Wilson's unreleased album, A Season in Hell. And they had been promoting the hell out of it. And they also had found another tape in the box, a mystery tape. And they were trying, to figure out who was playing on these sessions and everything. Was Eddie really still alive and all that stuff? So there was kind of like an Eddie lives campaign kind of thing going on up under the story and everything. So basically one night, Eddie gets pissed off, and he goes out the cabin that they rent to rehearse in. And he's standing out there. He's got a fire going, and he's like, just burning all his songs. And the sax player walks up to him, and he said, it's a shame to burn all those songs written by Eddie Wilson. And he stops there for a minute, and he says, "Well, good things I'm quitting." He says, "You ain't quitting now, Eddie." He says, "I knew it from the moment I saw you play." He said, "It's like fingerprints. A man can disguise under another name, but he can't disguise the way he plays." And he's like, well, I guess it's a good thing I'm quitting. Then he said, you're not quitting, Eddie, because you owe it to me and you owe it to this band. So he tossed them to come back, and finally they decided to do the music festival and everything. Well, then right before the Montreal Music Festival, he runs into a band member from his past, Sal Amano, which was Eddie, guy Michael Pierre, and the guy that plays Sal are the only two people from the original movie that make appearances or come back for the second movie. And Sal sees him walking down the beach and gets mad, like, you son of a bitch, you've been dead for 20 years, damn it. He says, so they kind of reconnect, and Eddie explained everything to him and what happened and everything. And they become friends again. And basically, the hot-head guitar player that he has in the band with him, sends his demo tape out to Satin Records. Well, Satin Records was pretty much the same record label that told Eddie in the first movie that his album, A Season in Hell, was junk. Well, so basically, Eddie comes out at the very end of it after they play the first song at the festival and tells everybody that he's alive and everything. And pretty much they play another song and the movie goes off. It's kind of a hard movie to explain, but one of the things I wanted to get into about this movie and everything is the soundtrack. The music and the songs and everything in this movie. All the songs were written, performed, and sung by John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. Okay. They were, if I'm not mistaken, there was Eddie and the Cruisers original soundtrack. Then there was Eddie and the Cruisers to Eddie Live's soundtrack. And then there was a third release called Eddie and the Cruisers, the unreleased tapes, or the lost sessions, or I think it was the unreleased tapes or something other like that. Anyway, okay, all that music was done by John Cafferty. And if you've never heard John Cafferty, the best way I can explain it is John Cafferty was almost, he was kind of a cross between like Bruce Springsteen and John Mellencamp, kind of like. So all the music and everything, and I'm talking about, great songs like On the Dark Side, Tender Years, Season in Hell, New York City Song, Running Through the Fire. There's just so many great songs on this movie. And the soundtrack, honestly, truly, the music is what makes the movie. It's just the music is so good in this movie. The sound, if you can find the soundtracks, I recommend getting them just for the music. The music is great. It's like I said, if you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen, you would love the soundtracks to Eddie and the Cruisers. They're and the music is just so great and everything. But I just want to recommend that if you've never seen these movies and you love that type of music, then go out and watch these movies. They're great. To me, they're cult classics. They're kind of underrated, kind of flown under the radar movies. Like Eddie and the Cruisers, the first movie was a bomb at the box office, but it got its foothold through like HBO and video release and everything. And then after that happened, the movie become huge and become a cult classic. And then that was the reason why they done a part 2. But yeah, it's just Michael Pierre's performance as Eddie Wilson in this movie, and like I said, with the music and everything, it's just his performance and the way he performed the music and everything in this thing. I've never seen more of a a movie where you actually felt like the people that was up there singing were the real people that were singing those songs. And it's out of this world good movies. So if you get a chance to go check them out, I recommend them. Like I said, if you're a fan of Springsteen, then you definitely want to see these movies. Michael Pierre is not a real big actor, but he's been in, a few movies here and there. And of course, you know who Tom Berenger is. He's in the first one. So yeah, there's some names in these movies and everything. So I recommend you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray if you notice. And the Blu-ray is a single disc with both movies on one disc. So you can't go wrong. One thing I do recommend, though, is that if you buy the Blu-ray, they have special features on the Blu-ray for the second movie that they don't have in the DVD release. And there's a behind-the-scenes featurette, talking about the making of the movie and how the movie came about and everything. Some interviews and different stuff like that. So I recommend getting the Blu-ray version because on the standard alone DVD release, you don't have those special features. So yeah, so I would go out and get the Blu-ray version. I think it's still available on Amazon if I'm not mistaken. So that's it for today. I just want to say thank you. Have a blessed day. If you like my podcast, like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.